Hello, hello, all. So, I had a recent election. So, for election day, I decided to work at the polls, and just to kind of see how the process works. I was just kind of curious about it. So, I worked at the polling station, my local polling station, and it was very interesting the way people react. Um, I used to be an independent. Now I'm a conservative, and it's sort of a bipartisan situation where you have Republicans and you have Democrats kind of working at the polls, and there was one other conservative and just me, and everybody else was a Democrat while we were working there, and they're all a lot older than me. I think the youngest other person there was like she was in her 50s. Um, and there was a it was very interesting interaction. These people are very passionate about politics to an obsessive degree, and it was rather startling. Um, there was one older black woman. She was the oldest. I think she was like 86 or something like that. That was working there, and she was very upset with me. She was, yeah, there was a lot of passive aggressiveness going on. Uh, Even to the point, like I was just ignoring it. I was just ignoring all that attitude she was throwing towards me. She got to the point where she was like aggressively having a conversation with someone right next to me about black men for Trump. I mean, I'm not a Trump supporter, even though I did voted for him. I just so I prefer him to the other candidate. I'm not really. I don't buy any MAGA hats or any of that kind of stuff. I wouldn't consider myself a Trump supporter. But she was kind of just throwing those jabs at me, and it was just it's kind of awkward. And then because I was new, it was my first time working the polls. They kind of wanted. They wanted me to kind of just do everything. So you got people at different stations, yeah, and so these older women are typically they're kind of hogging the check-in station. They kind of like checking people in because all they have to do is kind of sit down and just press buttons. Um, so the woman that was kind of like in charge of the whole thing, she told me she was like, all right, I'm gonna put you on uh, freaking check-in stations because people love to hog that position, and we all gotta kind of have to switch out. So she switched me out with that old that old black woman, and I took her spot, and then I was working the poll station. I didn't even know this really pissed her off because I didn't even make a choice to do that. So she's working the what is it the what is that, what the hell is that thing called? Uh, well, it's the like the final step in the polling station where you kind of like I can't remember what it is. You kind of just put your ballot into the machine, the ballot box. Yeah, you like the final ballot box. She was working that, and while she was working there, she fell asleep. Uh, she was supposed to be standing while she was doing that, but instead she got a chair and she sat down and she fell asleep. And she kind of she got reported for that and she falling asleep. They woke her up. She stumbled about, talking about how tired she is. And while she was getting admonished for her behavior, um, two older people, I think the older man, I think he was the only older man there, and he was 82. He's a Democrat, and him and the other ladies that were working the check-in station, because there was three other people working there and me. They were kind of defending her because they're all Democrats. They were defending her, and they were talking about the fact that apparently it was like 2 days prior to the polling, her son passed away. Um, Turns out it was in the news. Surprise, surprise. it was gun violence and he was a criminal. I I couldn't believe it. I didn't say anything. They were just having their conversation. They were all offended that someone would call her out for falling asleep on the job because her son passed away. It was just like, apparently people should have sympathy for her because she chose to come there to work to get her mind off of it, which I don't think that's the situation. She's just really passionate about freaking the election. So so they're defending her and they're talking about how horrible it is for people to call her out. The lady literally fell asleep on the job, but apparently it's wrong to call her out because she believes in the right cause in their eyes. And the older man, he was talking about you know, how he doesn't like Trump because of the insurrection on January 6th, and it was just like it's just so silly. Every single time they spoke, it sounded like they were just repeating things from the news. Like none of them had like a nuanced take on the situation. They were all just like repeating things from the news. All of a sudden, everyone is so upset that a convicted felon would even run for it. Like, oh, a convicted felon. Like I watched the same thing that they did. I saw people forcing a conviction on ridiculous things just so they can label him a convicted felon. And now, all of a sudden, people are up in arms about a convicted felon running for office. It's just mind-blowing to me. I couldn't understand it. Like a convicted felon is just beyond your moral capacity to accept, regardless of the conviction, even though they're completely silly convictions. I just couldn't believe it. And they're like, oh, he's racist. It's like, this man, his entire goddamn life, he might be the least racist person I've ever seen in politics. Because he's the kind of person that talks exactly the same to regardless of who he's talking to. You have all these other Democrats, they're blacking it up when they're talking to black people. It just amazes me. He's the only person that ever comes across to me like he doesn't really give a shit if you're a man, woman, black, white, whatever. But he's racist. I don't understand these people. I think they just hear things, and I don't know if it's laziness or incompetence. It's just like, because very few people are too stupid to understand a truth, right? Like you can tell them, okay, this is the information and this is what you're being told, and they can like look at it and they can understand that, okay, that's a lie. This is the truth. So there's hardly a level of stupid where you can't understand what the truth is. So it has to be either laziness or incompetence where they're just like, I'll just go with what I'm told rather than actually look into it. Because if someone told me there are spiders that are going to come and try to eat my eyes at night, and if that terrified me, I'm not just going to accept that and try to cover my eyes. I'm going to look into it and be like, okay, what do I need to do to get, and then I'll find out, oh, that's not real. That's not just something people made up. But they don't really do that. So it has to be some sort of laziness involved in the situation. And I just couldn't, I don't know. I just couldn't understand these people. And they're just, there's a lot of passive aggressiveness. They're really coming at me in droves. And, you know, and it's one of those weird things where they get emotional and they understand, like they're all older than me, way older than me. They get really emotional and they come at me really wrong. And I don't react. I'm just very calm, and I just like, yeah, you know, just kind of nod, barely say anything. And then after they do that, you know, the other Republican, she would come up and she would be like, oh my God, I can't believe they did that. That was so freaking weird, the way they were talking to you, and it was just, and I was just like, yeah, you know, that's just how some people are. And then after they do that, they'll just act like nothing happened. They'll just continue like they didn't just freaking just lose their shit. It's almost like I'm speaking to bipolar people. You know what I mean? They just get emotional and then act like it never happened. They just kind of like just ignore it, and then they'll do it again, and then they'll just act like it didn't happen. And yeah, it was just a weird set of circumstance. So I worked that from like six. It was supposed to be from 6 to 9 p.m., 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. I was there around 5:17, so I was there the whole day. I didn't really eat or anything. I was just working the whole time, and yeah, they ordered pizza, but I'm lactose intolerant, so I didn't even really touch any of that. I didn't really know how it was gonna go, so I wasn't really prepared. So I was just like, I'll just work through it. I'll eat when I get home. And yeah, it was a long day, man. Learned a lot. Got home, tired, took a nap, woke up, and then Trump was winning, and people were losing their shit, and I was there for it, man. But hey, it was an enjoyable experience, and I learned a lot. Until next time.